Hello family! Our movie begins with Stephanie Smothers, a mommy YouTuber who features crafts and recipes for parents in her latest vlog. Emily Nelson, her best friend, has been gone for 5 days. She tells her viewers Stephanie is also assisting the police in locating her. Stephanie then describes how she and Emily met for the first time. Stephanie attends her son's school on International Cuisine Day 1 week before Emily's disappearance. When she meets Emily, who turns out to be the mother of Miles' classmate, Nikki, they become fast friends, and Stephanie pays a visit to Emily's lovely home, where she learns that Emily works as a public relations director for a fashion company. Stephanie discovers a soiled picture on the wall and discovers that it belonged to Emily's friend. After Emily discusses her relationship and shares her frustration with her husband, Sean Townsend, an English professor, Stephanie compliments her ring and discovers that it was given to Sean by Sean's mother. Stephanie explains that she is a widowed single mother whose spouse died in a vehicle accident. She also informs Emily that she is now subsisting on her husband's insurance money. Stephanie discovers Sean used to be a writer and realizes he has researched his work for his university research project. While the ladies are sipping martinis, Sean arrives home, and Emily greets him. Following that, Emily tells Stephanie about her hectic schedule as a result of her difficult job, prompting Stephanie to offer her assistance in bringing up Nikki after school. Emily the next day calls her and wants her to pick up Nikki from school. Stephanie and Miles accompany him to the park, where Emily appears after a while as they watch the children play. Stephanie takes a photograph of Emily, to which she reacts harshly and requests that she erase it immediately. Stephanie blushes and apologizes to her for offending her. When they go home, Stephanie presents Emily a handcrafted bracelet as a gift. They then sit down to talk over drinks. Emily asks her to confess, but she first confesses, revealing that she and her husband became closer to a third person together. When it's Stephanie's turn, she confesses and recalls a memory in which she reveals that she once became closer to her half-brother, Chris. Emily laughs and mocks her for doing so. In the following scene, Emily, as usual, requests that Stephanie pick up Nikki, stating that Sean is in London caring for his sick mother, who has been hospitalized. Stephanie gladly accepts the position and drives the kids to her house in the evening. Emily is taking too long to arrive. She realizes when Emily does not return her phone calls after 2 days. She phones her office and discovers from her secretary that Emily has departed to Miami. She eventually informs Sean of the issue, and he promises he will return the next day. Next, we see Sean arriving at Stephanie's house and contact the police. When the police come, they think that the pair had a quarrel, which causes Sean to travel to London, hinting that he is having an affair. Stephanie interrupts them and claims that she knows the family well and that Sean will never cheat on Emily as the police interrogate Sean. Later that night, when Stephanie and Sean talk, she informs him about how Emily reacted when she caught her image a few days earlier. Sean claims that Emily does this all the time and that she once canceled his Facebook account when he uploaded a photo of them while preparing to leave. Stephanie asks him to stay because he won't be able to find a taxi at that time. Stephanie wakes up the next morning to the sound of Sean and the kids chatting in the kitchen over veggie smoothies, and she later shares the recipe on her blog. She also informs her viewers about Emily's absence and claims Sean is working hard to find her with the support of the police. In the following scene, Stephanie visits Dennis Nylons and inquires about Emily Nylon. Stephanie assumes Nylon is involved after asking Kiko's secretary if he has been aware of any news that Emily is in Miami. As a result, she sneaks into Emily's workplace. She discovers a photograph of Emily hidden on her desk and uses it to create missing person flyers. Later, Detective Somerville pays Sean a visit and informs him that Emily lied about traveling to Miami since her automobile was discovered at a summer camp in Michigan. Stephanie overhears their talk and informs her readers in her next blog. Stephanie comes up at Sean's house and informs him about it when one of the viewers sends her an email saying she observed a woman filling up gas in her car in Michigan and fears it could be Emily. Just then, Sean receives a call from investigator Somerville, instructing him to go to a lake in Michigan where Emily's automobile has been discovered. Stephanie and Sean share their anguish as the police uncover Emily's body in the lake, and Nikki grows hostile. He accuses Stephanie of murdering his mother in order to be with his father. Following that, we see Sean and Stephanie begin their relationship later. Detective Somerville pays Stephanie a visit and tells that he has researched Emily and Sean's frequent fights. She disagrees, claiming that the pair used to be concerned about their financial status. Somerville goes on to say that Emily had major liver damage, a large amount of heroin, and that Sean recently took out a $4 million insurance policy on Emily. Stephanie looks around in Sean's room and discovers an insurance file, revealing that Sean requested Emily's signature. She pays him a visit at college and is surprised to see him cuddling another woman at the dinner table. In the next scene, Emily, according to Nikki, paid him a visit at school today. Sean, on the other hand, does not believe him and advises him to avoid lying, thinking Nikki is grieving the loss of his mother. Stephanie discovers the bracelet she gave to Emily when Nikki goes to bed. Stephanie discusses the bracelet with Sean, and he informs her that Emily must have given it to Nikki before her disappearance, hinting that she didn't enjoy such things. Again, she discovers that Sean accepted the insurance at Emily's request in order to protect Nikki's future. Stephanie makes the decision to live with Sean. She removes Emily's belongings, but when she goes to the dressing room with her belongings, she discovers that Emily's belongings have been replaced. In the following scene, Nikki hands Stephanie an envelope with the words "from." Stephanie receives a call from Emily and then pays a visit after discovering an insulting note regarding her covert relationship with her half-brother, Chris. Sean, who claims she is just going through a hard patch. That afternoon, Stephanie believes that her late husband suspected her infidelity and may have purposefully provoked the accident to finish her off. Chris, after telling Emily this, they both get closer, but Stephanie stops because she is humiliated. As the flashback concludes, Stephanie examines Emily's favorite artwork and discovers that it was created by an artist named Diana Hyland. Stephanie then meets Diana Hyland, who reveals that the painting was actually of her muse Claudia, whom she describes as a pathological liar who vanished. Diana's information then leads Stephanie to a summer camp in Michigan, where she finds Emily to be a girl named Hope McClendon who had an identical twin named Faith McClendon. Stephanie then visits a woman named Margaret who is the twins' mother. She reveals that when the twins were 16, they set fire to their family home, killing their father. Margaret recognizes Stephanie as her daughter Faith when she shows her the picture she found on Emily's desk. She is hesitant to discuss her girls further since she believes they are bad. Stephanie shows her viewers a childhood photograph of Emily that she discovered at a summer camp and explains that she went there to relive her memories. Emily then appears, and it is discovered that she is. She sees Stephanie's blog and becomes irritated with her for attending summer camp and knowing her reality. In the next scene, Stephanie goes home and begins looking into the insurance money that was taken from Emily. Meanwhile, Emily returns to surprise Sean. She tells him she intends to collect the insurance money and leave the country. When Sean gets home, he runs into the insurance person Stephanie contacted to tell him Emily had an identical twin. The insurance person says they're looking into it, if Emily actually did sign up for the insurance money. Stephanie later visits Emily at the cemetery, where she reveals everything in a flashback. Emily and her sister are shown to have killed their violent father. The girls then decided to split up and regroup later, but Faith did not appear as arranged. Meanwhile, Emily worked in the family business, but 14 years later, Faith returned, and she is now an alcoholic. She threatens Emily that until Emily gives her $1 million, she would confess their crime to the police. Following your agreement to compensate her, Emily drowns Faith in the water, but Emily later tells Stephanie that Faith committed suicide. She also informs her that Sean plotted the insurance scam. Sean irritates both Emily and Stephanie. Emily frames him for abusing her and shockingly reappears in public. She tells the journalist that Sean wanted her to fake her death so he could collect the insurance money. Next, Sean is released on bond and returns home. As we watch, Stephanie appears in stages. Stephanie fakes shooting Sean, but Emily admits that she predicted their plot and switched off the microphone that the couple had put to record everything. Stephanie is rendered helpless when she shoots Sean in the shoulder. Stephanie then discloses that a concealed camera is live streaming everything on her vlog. Emily tries to flee but is struck by Stephanie's friend Darren's car. Following that, she is arrested by the police. Stephanie's vlog was then purchased by publishing behemoth Condé Nast. It is also shown that Emily is serving a 20-year term for her actions. Emily is shown winning a basketball game while in prison, and it is stated that she has acclimated well. This is how our movie ends. Leave us a comment on how you found this movie recap. See you in the next movie recap.